Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another knife review for you. Today, we have an S30V blade, USA-made knife for 99 bucks from Gerber. Not the company you expect to hear at the end of that sentence, but it is. It's from Gerber. A lot of knife enthusiasts not big fans of Gerber lately, and it's not hard to see why. They've had some duds, and let's be honest, most Gerbers you see are, 10, 15, 20 bucks hanging on a rack at your local sporting goods store or Walmart or something like that. They do make a few other USA-made knives, but not that many. And this is, a ball-bearing flipper, kind of a worn Cliffy blade, sort of following a lot of, modern EDC trends that enthusiasts like us like. And at the price point this is at, I think they're trying to do two things. I think they're trying to drag some of their loyal customers up into buying something a little bit nicer, and trying to also at the same time gather some more interest back from some of us enthusiasts that have written Gerber off. This is not the first time they've tried to make an kind of enthusiast-oriented knife lately. This is only a little 30 bucks, Chinese made, but they came out with this last year, the flat iron. I did a pretty decent review of it. It's cheap. The steel's pretty crap, and it's got some problems with it. But at least they were trying to follow a trend. The folding cleavers were and still are very popular, and they tried to follow a trend, and it was cool to see them doing that. And I think I said that in the video that my favorite thing about it was that these are available everywhere. I think I actually got this at a Dick's Sporting Goods. So it's gonna, having little enthusiast stuff like this, it's just gonna make more people get into the knife hobby, I think, and I think that's a good thing. And I think the Fastball does that even more. We'll talk about that more in my conclusions, but I'm just gonna say overall, it's a pretty good knife. There's one thing we'll get to that is a flaw in it that I think as enthusiasts aren't gonna like, but I think their customers, I can totally see why they did it that way. But again, we'll talk over that later. But the first thing you're going to have questions about quality. Gerber's had some issues with that in the past, but this one is, this one at least is pretty good. I did just get this a couple days ago, so it is with the newest production. I know some people in the first run had a couple little issues, but it's a new knife. That's not unexpected. Centering's pretty good. Favors to the left there just a tick. But, everything's nicely chamfered, all that stuff. The detent's dialed in pretty darn good. Lockup is right where you want it. For a liner lock, you have no blade play, no lock rock, no nothing like that. Everything's good to go there. The grind's pretty even except for right here at the tip. They almost had it the whole way, and it's off just a little bit, well, a fair amount there, just right at the tip. But the rest of the grind all the way up the blade's pretty good, even on both sides. So yeah, just other than that little bit of grind mess up at the tip and it being very slightly off center, those are the only two issues I have with it. I did take it apart, put it back together. That was pretty easy. I will say servicing it did help it out a little bit. It was weird. It felt like maybe a little bit gritty, but when I cleaned it, there was nothing like dirty on the cloth or anything. So I don't know what was in there, some kind of clear gritty stuff. But once I got that out, it worked even better. But it didn't work bad out of the box. You could just kind of hear the grittiness a little bit. Speaking of that box, it comes in this rather large box. There's just a little, not even going to bother pulling it out. It's not really worth looking at. There's a little piece of cardboard this is like zip tied to inside of it, but it comes in a big old box. Let's do some stats and size comparisons before we get too much farther with this. We have an overall length of 7.1 inches, blade length of 3 inches, blade thickness 0.10 inches, handle thickness of 0.41 inches, and a weight dead on exactly what they claim, 2.79 ounces. I always give a little golf clap to companies when they actually nail the weight, and they did. They claimed 2.79. That's exactly what it was on my scales. Now, size comparisons. We will do our usual Spyderco sandwich. This is not a terribly large knife, as you can see against the PM2. And where did I put the pair of 3? There it is. Got too many out here for size comparisons right now, so more similar in length to the pair of 3 for sure. And then we will put it against one of our other usuals here, your full-size Benchmade Griptilian. And while it's here, your Kershaw Bare Knuckle. So you can see it's a fairly small knife. I'm going to compare it to another 3-inch knife that I have here that you may actually see this compared to I'm doing those cheap versus not so much. So I said this is $100. This is the much less expensive Tangram Santa Fe. Haven't had this on the channel a long time, but I do still own it. Very similar in overall length to the Tangram Santa Fe. Looks wise, I think it looks pretty cool. It's definitely following trends, you know, as I said before, in what's popular in EDC right now. A nice Warren Cliffy style blade. I like that. I like the look of the aluminum. It does come in this color configuration, obviously. There's also an olive green with the same stonewash and a black aluminum with black wash blade. Some places charge $5 more for that. Some don't. So I don't know what the standard policy on that is. But quality-wise, we already kind of went through most of that. But I will say it does feel like a very solidly built and pretty good-looking knife. Now, the first one of my usual categories I always bring up first because it's the most important, the blade. And that's where I have an issue with this knife. It is S30V steel, as I said, and I've been putting this through its paces pretty good the last couple days, and it holds up like S30V should. No problem there. Pretty thin blade stock. I do wish this was a full flat grind just for this particular, the way that I would like to use this knife, but it isn't. It's kind of this, saber grind. The tip is very good on it. It's got this nice swedge. Got a pretty robust tip, which is probably a good idea because it is thin blade stock, and if they're intending on a lot of regular Gerber customers to upgrade to this, probably a lot of their customers are used to buying much less expensive knives that they're not particularly nice to. So I kind of like that it's got a little beefier tip on it than what you'd expect in kind of a Warren Cliff of this thin a blade stock. But the thing they did that I think is also for that same reason that I wish they didn't is this is very thick behind the edge. You're looking at like 32 thousandths, 32 to 34 thousandths behind the edge. That's really thick behind the edge. For a blade this thin, I'd be expecting 20, 22 thousandths at the most. Maybe 24 or so, but no, for this thin, it's a lot. So when you're cutting cardboard and stuff, that initial cut, it takes a bit of a push. Once it gets in there, it is thin blade stock, and it does glide through pretty well. But that thick behind the edge and the saber ground, it is not a slicing machine. It's not horrible, but it's definitely not what you call a slicing machine. Pretty sharp out of the box, not mind-blowingly sharp, but it was okay. Yeah, it's fine. It's an okay blade, but man, if they'd have made this thing if they ground it, yeah, like I said, even like 24 thousandths behind the edge, I would love this knife a whole lot more. But again, I think they did that because this is a tougher edge. I think a lot of their customers, probably the upgrade from their previous Gerber to this, probably are going to abuse it. Maybe that'll save their warranty department some problems. I don't know. I'm not a blade geometry expert, but usually as a rule, thicker behind the edge is a little tougher edge. So yeah, we shall see. Wish they hadn't done it. But that's really my biggest flaw with it. Ergos definitely is not a flaw with it. Ergos in this thing are really, really good. Again, I have large size gloves, fairly skinny fingers, and I fit all 4 fingers on here completely perfectly fine, which is not always true with 3-inch knives. Some of them I barely fit on. This one I have plenty of room. It's very comfortable. I wouldn't mind there'd be some jimping up here, but maybe even farther down the blade like here, but there is none. But it's okay. It's still a pretty comfortable place to rest your hand. Everything's nicely, no sharp edges or anything. It's good. No, the pocket clip is excellent, which I was not expecting that because, a lot of companies, especially in their first higher-end knives, they don't get the pocket clips. Right? I guess Gerber's been making a lot of knives. They've made a lot of pocket clips. I shouldn't be that surprised, but yeah, it fits in pretty good. It's not too bad. As you can see, it's not terribly deep carry. But it's not bad either. You just have that little bit sticking out. I'm okay with that. I'm not going to complain about it too much. It is easy to get your hand past, certainly. It's very slim, very light, as I said, well under 3 ounces. When you're sliding past this flipper tab, it doesn't stick out particularly far, and the part that your hand's passing past, the reason why I'm not doing this in the Wrangler, so you can see this, you're not hitting anything sharp, which is really nice. I always do like that. That's great. It is an excellent knife to carry. It is a joy to have in the pocket for sure. The action, another thing. Are they going to get it right? Their first time with this kind of knife. They did. It's detents, a little stiff, It's maybe 10% stiffer than I like, but if you're going to err one side or the other, I prefer it be that. Not drop shutty, but you wouldn't expect it to be with a blade this light. But man, it rockets out. I handed it to a couple of people, and they all thought it was assisted, and it is not. It's just once you push past that detent, it's going to fire. I can't fail it. I tried and tried and tried. Can't do it. And it's smooth. Yeah, I can't complain about the action on it at all. So we're already at our conclusions on this. I kind of expect this to be a little bit of a longer video, but I think it's doing exactly what they're aiming for it to do. Like I said, I think they're trying to drag some people up, and I'm not going to say drag us down, but make us all look at Gerber again. I'm excited to see more versions of it. I would kind of hope they do a larger one. Wouldn't mind seeing a 3.5-inch version of this. That would be nice. Yeah, they've done some pretty cool stuff here with it, sure. Oh, by the way, I never mentioned, it's kind of cool. It's just, you got a liner on one side, and the other side's just one piece of aluminum. There's no liner on the other side, which is how they hit that weight. It's lightweight, good blade steel, not a great slicer, but it's going to handle all your EDC tasks fine. And it's going to handle probably what a lot of their customers are going to use it for absolutely fine. Construction-wise, it's pretty good. I will say that I didn't have really another place to put this in. These screws back here do thread into the aluminum on the other side. I don't like that very much. Got to be careful with that. Oh, and that's, by the way, it is right hand, left hand, tip up carry, tip down is only right hand. So if you want to carry tip down, if you're one of those weirdos, you got to be right-handed. So I hope you guys have found this informative. It's again, basically my conclusion is I think it's going to do what they wanted it to do. I think it's going to raise their profile up a little bit. In $99 again, it's not a value, but I think it's fine. If this had any other brand name on it for $99, we wouldn't be complaining about it. I think the few people that say it's overpriced is because it says Gerber on it, but it is the USA made Gerber. It's not. Can't compare it to all the cheap stuff. But one thing I do like about it, same thing I said about the flat iron. I saw this just hanging on a rack in an REI, and not this particular one. They had it in the black. I got mine from White Mountain Knives. If you want to go check them out, my code's down below, SDWMK at checkout. Get 10% off. But it's going to be around more places, and I think that's good. If REI's got it, that means Dick's Sporting Goods, Field and Stream, all those places are going to start having them in stock, and maybe some people will, instead of buying a cheaper knife, will take a shot on one of these because it's a brand name they recognize, and they'll find out what a really nice knife is like. And this is a nice knife, despite the flaws of the blade. It's still a nice knife. It's still what I think any of us as enthusiasts would call a good knife. So it'll be nice. Maybe they'll jump up to something good, and then maybe who knows, they'll get bitten by the bug and start buying Spydercos and Benchmades and ZTs and stuff like that we all love, and it'll help expand our hobby. So you can't really knock that. I'm just happy to see a big company making a concerted effort to make something good that will attract people like us and show their customers what the knife hobby is really about. So hope you guys have enjoyed this. A bit rambly of an end, but I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I've been Brian. Have a good one.